So today I'll be talking to you about our main article was called What's Your Poison? This is about accidental ingestion of chemicals. Safe Work Australia published some new guidance on traffic management. I'll explain that. And those of you in Victoria who drive a vehicle need to know about the new road law about giving space to cyclists. I'll also give you a bit of a preview about what we'll be talking about next month. So into what's your poison? And we said, gee, that tastes a bit strange. I was inspired to write this article about accidental ingestion of chemicals last month after, within 2 days, reading 2 separate articles about accidental poisons. One of them in 12 children in Melbourne at a childcare centre were attended to by paramedics after they were given a drink that contained chemicals. It was later found out that the drink that the children were given contained detergent. So somehow that was accidentally put into a drink that was given to the children. And a day later, I read about another case where a woman in Russia had bought a bottle of water, a bottle of a container that was labelled as mineral water. And when she drank it, she immediately spat it out because she knew the taste wasn't right, but it was actually, a very strong sanitizer, I believe a methanol or isopropyl based. And even though she'd spat out the drink straight away, she was still poisoned and treated in hospital for 2 days. And what we know is, around the world with the increased use of hand sanitizer, there has been an increased incidence of people accidentally drinking hand sanitizers. Part of this problem has been the use of containers that looks like food containers. So the FDA in America had sent out alerts warning businesses not to use containers that look like food or drink containers. There's been a lot of that over there. And the photo on the screen is actually a warning from the TGA in Australia, again, warning businesses that manufacture or supply hand sanitizer to avoid using containers such as these on the screen, which you can see just looks like, a water bottle. And the one on the left looks a lot like a pouch that that we often buy baby food in these little portable pouches. And so you can imagine, in a hurry or if someone's thirsty without reading the label properly, they could easily mistake that as a food or drink and accidentally drink that. And you'll also see, a lot of hand sanitizers come in packages, brightly colored containers. And in America, they've even had some hand sanitizers that are actually flavored like chocolate or berries. Certainly making them more appealing to be consumed by children or just mistaken for a beverage. The photo on the screen below, it might look like a cordial container to you. That's in fact a chemical storage, and that is a cleaning chemical, but it's stored in a container like that. So you could imagine very easily that if that was actually in a kitchen, that could easily be mistaken for a drink and accidentally consumed. So when it comes to chemicals in the workplace, typically, and I believe it even says so in the Code of Practice in Victoria for hazardous substance, that ingestion of chemicals is actually a very infrequent route of exposure for chemicals. And what we typically know when managing chemical safety is that, inhalation or skin contact are the most common routes that people would be exposed to chemicals. And that's what we're normally focused on managing. But what we certainly know is that in cases, and it has been increasing, and especially in the last year, people accidentally ingesting chemicals. The main way this is happening is by incorrect storage. Mainly.
So Andrea, that's a very good point. So is this something that probably for all of our listeners in the workplace, some specific program, because we've got hand sanitizer about every 5 metres in this office, all around the office. So this is becoming very common, containers of hand sanitizer. Is there any particular way we should package or label them in addition to what maybe the manufacturers put on the hand pump sanitizer?
Yeah, well, Gary, that is actually a good point. And And in fact, you know, what we've found with the hand sanitizer, we've got a lot of manufacturers that are actually new to supplying chemicals to the workplace. And so some of these suppliers, like you would have heard about distilleries, they are typically, you know, their business was supplying beverages, not chemicals. And so you are actually seeing on the market a lot of products that, and I'm still seeing a lot that do actually look like drink containers. So my suggestion is to, and I've also seen a lot that do not contain the correct labeling. So my suggestion is buy a container that looks like a chemical, not a drink. So don't be tempted by the aesthetics of a container. But also, if one is not well labeled, if it's not distinctive to you as a chemical, I would recommend adding additional labels on.
Andrea, would that be the skull and crossbone? Is that the one I recall as poison?
The toxic, but also most of your hand sanitizer, and certainly the recommended ones, you know, what the health department is recommending is that we use one of at least 60% alcohol. Yeah. So it should have the flammable liquids diamond on there.
Yeah. Okay.
Pardon me. So what I do want to let you know is that the important thing with all your chemicals, whether it be hand sanitizer or other chemicals, is to make sure that you store it correctly. I recommend that you never decant chemicals into food or drink containers. Sorry, and I was drinking from a drink container. My water's a bit cold, tickling my throat. When you buy containers to decant chemicals on, buy a purpose-made container. So for example, if you decant fuel, you can actually buy fuel containers, and as a benefit that they're actually the correct material to store that chemical, but they also contain some of the labeling that you need. But I know sometimes you might not be able to get a purpose-made container, and in the interest of being environmentally friendly, you know, we do like to reuse containers. If you do need to reuse a container, for example, a jar to store a chemical, please make sure that you remove all of the food labeling. So you'll see some of the labels containers here. So remove the food labels and replace those labels with a correct label. But I would still avoid using containers like this tomato sauce, which is distinctively, you know, identifiable as a food type container. Always store your chemicals away from food or drink. So never store them in the kitchen in the same cupboard as food or drink. And there's also laws on how you need to label a chemical. So which is at the minimum, you know, the product name, the hazards, and if it's a dangerous good, you know, the relevant dangerous goods diamond. I've attached fact sheets to this webinar. In the files download, you'll see a fact sheet there on the correct labeling and how to label a decanted chemical. Okay, so moving on with chemicals, if you did have any questions about chemical storage, do feel free to ask us in the chat and we'll get back to you. Or separately, you can follow us up with an email if any further questions and we will also get back to you. Now, we did mention in our last newsletter new publications from Safe Work Australia on traffic management. These new publications give some guidance for different industries and different types of traffic management circumstances, in particular working by public roads. So if you...
Andrea, if you like, I'll just give, excuse me, your voice a bit of a rest. I can tell you're just trying to catch that little ticklish throat there. I'll just mention one little thing here. I had a good friend and current WorkSafe inspector call me in the last week, indicating he went to this website and then went to another link and found a great checklist, summary checklist for traffic management. He said he's going to recommend that to any of the businesses that he visits that are actually interested in improving traffic management. So I'd recommend to all our listeners this morning, if traffic management is of interest, go to this website, to the Safe Work Australia website. You can search for the traffic management, and within it you'll find another link, and that'll go out to a summary checklist. So that's a little tip of mine there. So back to you, Andrew. That was my experience with this article.
Excellent. Thanks, Gary. So, and we've put the link in the newsletter there, and we can post it into the chat as well today. And so we also put a reminder for those in Victoria. If you are in Victoria and you drive on the public roads, you need to know about the new cycling safety law. So this law started at the end of last month, and you might have heard seen this on the advertisements. When passing a cyclist, you need to allow adequate space between your vehicle and the cyclist, at least 1 metre, and if the speed limit is above 60k, 1.5 metres. Hey Gary, can you tell everybody about the benchmarking survey that's coming up? We're looking for data to start coming in July.
Will do. Thanks, Andrea. For those that are listening to our webinar each month, you'll know we've advertised this the last couple of months. The reason we've advertised it, we didn't run it last year. Obviously, COVID affected a lot of our communication with clients and friends, and it had an impact on a lot of workers in the workplace as well. So a lot of things were different. We're coming back to it this year. We've had a few of our good friends contact us and say, are we going to run it this year? Because they've actually been using the data from this survey each year. One, to report back to executives. You know how well you're performing, but it's hard to tell somebody, unless you've got benchmark data, how you compare to other companies and other industries. It's like being a big fish in a small pond, and you can be very happy with yourself until you look over the fence and you realise, oh gee, others are actually improving at a quicker rate than we are. So the fact that you're improving is not necessarily good enough if the rest of industry is improving at a much quicker rate. And this is some of the stuff that we try and share with you in the survey. So the classic loss data, everyone knows how many work injuries, how many first aid injuries, how many days lost, those type, and turn those into rates. That's fine. We do that. We have positive performance indicators, which are things, what if you had no LTIs, no lost time injuries, and you had two businesses, neither had a lost time injury, which one's the safest or better safety performer? You might look therefore to lead indicators and find that whilst both have had no loss data, one has actually much more positive lead indicators to suggest a better performer. We also introduced in the last survey a number of what I call qualitative questions. These are questions about what safety systems you have in your business. And Dr. Webber of our team, who leads the benchmarking survey, he and I, when we discussed it, thought it might take a number of years to get some strong trends out of this. But what we found, Andrea, is in the first time we ran it, which was the year before last, with these new qualitative questions, some of them were very strong indicators of good performance. For, you might have questions like, do you have a safety policy? Well, that wasn't a strong indicator, and so no surprise. Everyone has that, and who cares almost. But there are certain other things that you and your business does, which we've found, and this is what the survey found very quickly, that these are strong indicators of those that had better performance in the loss data. So this tells us you perform better by having certain features in your safety program. So we're keen now to run this again to see if that same strong indicators is going to continue through, and what other learnings we can provide you and your friends and other customer clients and colleagues about understanding safety performance in Australia. So that's why we're giving everyone a lead up time. The data that you need to collect is extremely simple. And if anyone tells me, oh, it's confidential, I can't tell you, it's a load of rubbish. We don't disclose any of the participants by name. You get an ID number so you can see in the data who you are against everyone else. And to be honest, every single business should be publicly reporting safety performance in any event, including workers' comp and including workers' comp costs. Just because it's a cost and a financial figure doesn't mean to say it's confidential. Everyone knows if you've got a business of 100 people and you're paying workers' comp, we know what industry you're in. It's actually set by governments as to what the actual rate is. So we actually know the magnitude of the workers' comp cost for the business, and some will be performing a little bit better and some a little bit less. It's hardly confidential information. So if anyone that you're talking to says, "Oh, but we can't participate," somehow we're a different business, they're wrong, and they're losing the benefit for everyone else and themselves to participate in the survey. So I'm encouraging, as you speak to others, say, participate in the survey this year. So what we'll run is in July, we'll ask everyone to start submitting. We'll give 2 months because we know some people are busy in July or something else is happening. It can be a full year data, or it can be half year data up to end of June, for example. That's why we start in July. So some people run financial year. We don't care which 12 months data you give us. All we want is 12 months data. So it could be calendar year, financial year, or it could be up to end of March. So some businesses overseas, like Toyota, run a financial year to the end of March of each year. So that's what the benchmarking safety is about, Andrea. So thanks for the opportunity to explain it.
Thanks, Gary. And I guess, people should know that only participants receive the full comprehensive report. So that's the real benefit of your business if you do participate.
That's it.
So in next month's news, so that'll be coming out at the beginning of June, we'll be talking about plant and equipment pre-start checks and the importance of those. And I'll also be sharing a new solution to help you with your pre-start checks. I was lucky enough last month to go and preview a new solution by Connect IT that helps make those pre-start checks really quick and easy. And I'll be telling you more about that.
Andrea, just before we go on that point, if I may, we in Safety Action occasionally get involved in accident investigations. So after the event, we're doing an independent investigation, sometimes under legal privilege. And one of the key things we always ask if plant and equipment is involved, has this equipment had the pre-start check completed? So how do you know it's safe? And obviously the pre-start check is one of the key ones. People say, "Oh, we do regular maintenance." Maintenance is fine and it's necessary, but that maintenance might have been 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and scheduled, that's fine, but it's not actually evidence that the piece of equipment was safe today. So while weekly checks are also good, but pre-start checks are the best. So if we can, even if it's a quick visual pre-start check, and so I think Andrew is talking about some technology that will help us record this and do it quicker and easier, I think is one of, there's many systems out there, but we've actually been impressed by this one from our recent contacts with Connect IT. So thank you for that, Andrea. Back to you to finish off, or if you finish there, we'll wrap up the session if you like.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Yes, so that was the preview of what we have next month. So thanks everyone for joining us for our May webinar. The next webinar is on Tuesday, the 8th of June. So I hope you'll all join us then.
Okay, thanks everyone. We try and keep it short so you can just tune in over maybe morning tea or coffee. Thanks everyone. We'll look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, bye.